I drove a Lexus ES a while ago and I was smitten. It's a quiet, big, comfortable cruiser for a reasonable price. However, Toyota also makes a hefty sedan, so today I want to see if you should just save your money and pick up a Crown. I'm all for saving money, but if the product is well executed, I'm willing to drop some cash, and that's why I think most people should probably go with the Lexus. The Toyota Crown is a specific car for a specific person, and that's something that we should celebrate. Let me explain. Something that draws a lot of people toward an SUV is ride height. It's just easier to get in and out of most crossovers than it is sedans, and I think that the Crown solves this for the most part. You feel like you're sitting a few inches higher in here than you would be in a Camry or an ES. This helps if you have bad knees or if you're bad at figuring out where pesky curbs are. Briefly, if you enjoy fun, detailed car content, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Thank you. Though you really might want to avoid any parking lot oopsies with these 21-inch matte black wheels that you get with the new Nightshade edition. I think another aspect of the Toyota that might keep a few people away from Lexus showrooms is the style. It's muscular, it's a little funky, but it's not overly aggressive, and I just appreciate that. I think my only big knock here is, well, actually I have two complaints. One, this front grille is just textured. The actual inlets for the engine are just up here and then a little bit down here. And then around back, you also have a lift back looking design. However, it is just a traditional trunk. For 2025, you also have a longer list of standard features, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that. On the outside, not only will every Crown have proximity entry, you'll have it on every door. Unfortunately, if you want a 360 view camera, you actually have to go with the obscenely priced Platinum, but on the inside is where things get more interesting. Even if you go with the XLE, you're gonna have a heated steering wheel, heated and ventilated leather seats, and even heated rear seats. You're really just upgrading if you want to see a better sound system or a giant sunroof. The cabin itself, though, it doesn't feel like a bargain Lexus. Instead, it's more of a Camry on a bulking regimen. So the quality here would be good at $35,000 to $40,000, but when we're talking 50 grand, it's not taking the Crown. I'm glad that we have physical controls for the important stuff. They give a little bit of feedback. I'm also thankful for plenty of soft touch materials, even for where my knees rest, and the infotainment system. It's got a good response time, good resolution, it's super simple, but the material choices here tend to lean toward cheaper plastics. There's also less accenting here. This could really be livened up some, and I think you get that with the Lexus. You also get better build quality with the Lexus. This is by no means bad. The panel gaps are largely tight, but when it comes down to things like the door handles, which are lifted straight out of a Corolla, or the sound system, when you turn it up, you get rattles in the doors, and I actually heard the same thing from the last Crown that I drove over a year ago. I think for a little bit of extra cash, you get a lot more attention to detail with the Lexus. I'm also a little bit disappointed with the versatility here. There's not a whole lot in terms of storage up here. I do like that the center console is like the one from the Lexus, so it opens up in both ways. And at 6'3", this is quite comfortable. That might be the best thing about this interior. The seats are well shaped and supportive, but the cabin layout makes this feel smaller than it really is. One area where the Crown's dimensions come in handy is in the rear seat. I can sit behind myself with ease, the headrests are nicely shaped, and I still have some nice amenities too. Plus, one subtle advantage over the Lexus, you can fold down the rear seats. The trunk is massive. This should work for some road trips, and you have a spare tire. Though the poor location of the trunk release button can sometimes make you look silly in the parking lot. On the road, there are some trade-offs when you compare it to its luxury-minded cousin. You might be able to get a V6 in the ES, but in the Crown, you have standard all-wheel drive, and I think to a lot of people that's just as much of a selling point. For whatever reason with the Lexus, you can't have the 6-cylinder or the hybrid with the rear wheels driven. On that car, you only get all-wheel drive if you go with the 2.5 liter from the base RAV4. The Crown here also has a 2.5 liter, but it's electrified to make a whopping 236 horsepower. Zero to 60 with this setup is gonna come in around the low 7-second range. It sounds and feels about as intoxicating as decaf coffee, but I don't really care about that when I'm getting 40 miles per gallon in something that's essentially a sea vessel. That's because this is not only a hybrid, but it's one of the best designed hybrids for efficiency. This is going to utilize an eCVT, which is not like a traditional CVT really in any sense, other than that it's constantly able to change the drive ratio for the engines. It's simple, it's got a pretty quick response, and from low speeds, it feels more linear and direct than what you would normally get from this type of transmission. And the setup's going to sip less fuel than a traditional geared transmission, kind of like the one that you can get in the Crown with the Platinum trim. That is Toyota's Hybrid Max, and it's going to have a 2.4 liter turbocharged inline 4 and a 6-speed wet clutch automatic. The electric drive motor is actually sandwiched in between the two. Total output is like 340 horsepower, and that is going to accelerate with less stress than this, especially as you're pulling up to our higher speeds. However, I'm never really driving this thing and thinking, ooh, I need more passing power. I think having regular gears just makes a car feel maybe a little bit more luxurious and less agricultural. Both powertrains will lack a drive shaft in the middle. Instead, they use a separate motor at the rear to give you all-wheel drive. The Hybrid Max will pack a more potent full-time unit, which boosts performance and further hinders the fuel economy. While you do technically have more choice with what's under the hood of the ES, I think the Crown's powertrains make a little bit more sense. And while I'm not driving these two back to back, I can say that the Crown is comfortable enough to hold its own with luxury sedans. This does a pretty good job of isolating you, and when you start hitting potholes or big breaks in the pavement, this still coddles you. It might not be quite as refined, but it's just as forgiving as that Lexus RX I drove last week. Pulling up to highway speeds might not be the most expensive sounding experience, but once you're there, wind noise is well muffled, road noise is a little bit more pronounced, though these supportive seats make sure that I'm happy for hours on end. Now it's time to throw the Crown into sport mode. This is a very interesting car to push a little harder on a back road because it feels heavy, and it also has kind of quick steering. The wheel has decent weight and build up in sport mode, but the body roll keeps this from feeling poised or changing direction quickly. I wouldn't consider it agile even with the adaptive damping and rear steering of the Platinum. The new Camry, while it's not engaging, does handle a little bit better, so if you want something a little bit more sure-footed, maybe go with that. As for longevity, I'd expect this to perform just as well as the new Camry. The powertrain here is proven. The 2.5 liter, outside of reports of coolant bypass valve failures in other Toyota models, has been a solid engine. And both power plants give you direct and port injection to reduce maintenance. The Crown itself is too new for a deep talk of common issues. So far, a few owners have said that they had quality problems like a rattle or strange wind noise. Others had more serious claims of hesitancy with the Platinum Hybrid Max model. Overall, there's been little drama with this release. The reality, though, is that the Lexus ES is also a very trustworthy car, and in a lot of ways, this thing is inferior. The Lexus holds a noticeable advantage in quality. I think the cabin looks more distinct as well. The seats are even better. The sound system is better. You can get a V6 if you want it. There's also a longer list of features, and you can still get a decent amount of amenities for under 50 grand. And to top things off, it doesn't seem like the Crown is holding a resale advantage either. All of that said, after driving this again, I still have a positive impression of the Crown. If you want a better sedan, go with the ES. If you want a more sensible car, go with the Camry. But what if you just want a sedan with funky looks? What if you want a sedan that's easier to get in and out of? Yes, there are other Toyota cars with all-wheel drive and insane efficiency and low running costs. But I feel like we can get a little too caught up in this why don't you buy X, Y, or Z mentality. Sometimes you just like something because you think it's cool, or it just does one thing really well that you appreciate, and maybe it's not the best at other stuff. There are other manufacturers that flush out any nameplates when the profits or sales numbers say company efforts are better spent elsewhere. That's why I commend Toyota for birthing the Crown in the US. There's no way that they built a larger sedan that has the versatility of a Camry and the cost of a Lexus thinking that this would sell in droves. No, they built it because it gives their lineup options. There are vehicles that move low numbers because they underwhelm in key areas. With the Crown, that's not the case, and that's why I respect this car maybe a little bit more than I would recommend it to the masses. Thanks for watching, and thank you to my channel members for helping me improve my content. Consider joining for additional videos. I'll catch you in the next one.